Oh,
Got him? Yes.
not bad, boys and girls. Boom. Could have tried jig dogs, boys. Love it. There you go. Look at that. Lovely, stocky fish. Got that jig down. Got that jig down. Got that missile bait destroyer in the back. Nice. Gridiron jig. Coogan gridiron. Got a nice sharp hook on it, I'll tell you that. There it is. Very good. There we go. Oh yeah! Look at that fish, boys. Whew. Oh! Look at that fish. Right on top. Don't jump, don't jump, don't jump. Don't jump.
Nice fish, bro.
Nice fish. Such a happy, lovely fish. Another one on that jig. In the mouth. I'll show you this jig now. Lovely fish, bro. 2 kilos.
Yeah.
Take that mouth. Retro machine. Very nice fish. Let's get a weight on this fish quickly. Probably high ones, not quite a 2 kilo. Oh, I'm wrong.
Oh.
Very wrong. 2.45.
Wow. Nice. It is a big fish, huh?
Not bad.
Oh.
2.45.
Lekker.
Very nice indeed. Very nice indeed. Cheers, dude. Thank you. Thank you. Lovely fish. A one-eyed bandit. Doesn't know he's released yet, boys.
There he goes.
Boom. Like a rocket. Very good. Right. I want to show you guys a nugget. A super cool nugget. Very, very important tip for Rattle Dam in particular, and other dams where there are certain forage, like freshwater craws, or some guys call them yabbies. I'm not actually too sure what they're called, but let me show you what I'm doing. So there's the bait cast that I've just caught that fish on. It is obviously, a lot of you guys will know, it's a jig. This is a 1/2 ounce. This is a Guggen jig. It's a football style jig. I think they call it a Guggen gridiron jig. It's a 1/2 ounce jig. A lot of times we fish like a 1/4 ounce jig or a 3/8 ounce jig, but a 1/2 ounce jig really gets down to the bottom. It keeps contact with that bottom, and that's what I like about, you know, a football jig. If I'm going to fish a football jig, I want a nice heavy 1/2 ounce jig. Get it to the bottom, get it onto those rocks, and for me, that's the presentation that I want to give. You know, I want to mimic forage. I want to mimic that freshwater craw, that yabby, and that's also why I've obviously gone for the trailer that I've selected. So, in terms of this particular jig, this is an Okeechobee craw color. So you can go with sort of a green pumpkin. You know, water's quite clean. So Okeechobee craw I like because it's got that combination of the green pumpkin. It's got a little bit of blue in it, and it really pairs well with the missile baits destroyer. I've just trimmed it down, and I'll show you how I do that. And that's in the superbug color. So for me, it's a really good combination. It just looks nice. It's, you know, I'm quite confident with it, and that's obviously why I'm fishing it, and I fish it a lot. And what I on the skirt, just show you. I'm gonna re-rig this whole presentation for you now quickly, and I'll show you exactly how I get it done. So essentially, that's how the jig comes out of the packaging ish. What I do is I let it hang freely, like that. I let it hang freely, and then I actually trim my skirt down a bit. The reason I trim my skirt is I just want a little bit more flare, but I do want to show more of the trailer. The trailer that I mentioned, I'll get to now. That's this guy here, and the main reason is because I want to show off these two long feelers that really imitate that freshwater craw, that yabby, really, really well. So that's the feature. So this I'm using as my base. It's got a nice hook on it, and I really want to show off that trailer. So what I'm doing is, what I've done is on this one already, I can't recut it, but I've trimmed the skirt down straight out of the packaging, and then I flare out the weed guard, which I think is very important. You got to flare that weed guard out. It does give you a better hook penetration, and it also makes it more weedless from all angles. A lot of guys potentially fish it straight out of the packaging, and then your weed guard's kind of all bunched in the middle like that. I'm not a huge fan of that. I like to flare it out, and that, like I say, it gives me a better hook set, and it gives me a better level of protection when I'm fishing rock and I'm coming through these trees and whatever else is down there. So that's what I do there. I do fish it on 20-pound line, half-ounce football jig, 20-pound line. An ideal rod, if you're fishing the Pesca Pro Series range of rods, would be the Pesca Carolina rod. It's a ledge fishing rod. It's designed for half-ounce football jigs, the swinging football jigs, those kinds of things. So it's a perfect rod for this application. Then I've got a bobber stopper just ahead of my knot. You might be able to see that. And that's just to protect my knot, to protect that point of line. You know, this jig's going to be on the bottom, as mentioned. 20-pound line, it's making contact. That line is, and that knot is going to be, to an extent, rubbing on the rock and gravel and shale and whatever's down there. And that bobber stopper for me, just it seems to just help that little section there from an abrasion perspective. So that's just my theory. It could make no difference at all, but when it's on there, I seem to have to retie less often. So that's my story there. So that's the jig done and dusted. Obviously the half-ounce football jig's got a nice sharp hook point on it. That's cool. And let me just show you what I do next. Okay, so to add to the mix and create a bit of sound and commotion on the bottom, I add a rattle. So this is a Vike, the packaging there. They come two in a pack. This is what's called a Vike double jig rattle. And that's what I put onto my jig. Very, very easy to put on. There it is there. Okay, so it gives us a rattle, essentially two rattles inside the tube. And it's a very, very simple process. It's got that ring on it, or that rubber loop, the rubber item. And I just thread that straight up my hook point. Push it up past the keeper, right onto the top keeper. This particular jig's got a wire keeper, and it's also got the normal standard keeper, but there we have it there. So I've fitted that rattle, and that rattle sits either side of the hook. Every time this goes over something, or if I'm hopping my jig, it's giving off that rattle sound. It's something that I think adds an extra element to my jig fishing, and it's proven very, very successful for me. So that's why I do that. It's just a theory, but when those craws, freshwater craws, moving around, you know, when I hop this jig, if those craws are making some kind of a noise in the water, you know, perhaps that jig does kind of imitate that rattle, kind of imitates that sound that they could make as they scurry around and move around and try and get away from these bass. So there's just another theory as well. But I think the most important thing is that they eat it. So that's the story regarding the jig. So the football jig and the combination of the rattle each side of the hook, what it does, it actually makes sure that my jig is it's never rolling over. It will not allow, the way that the football jig is designed, in the combination with that rattle, it will never sit on its side. I don't know if you can see that now as a good illustration. So in terms of my trailer, I'm using a Missile Baits Destroyer. This is one of my day boxes for today. I'm at Goedetro, and these are the kind of crawl baits. There's my destroyer there. You can see I've been through quite a few of them. I've got some of the smaller sizes and some of my D-bombs, and this is just what I'll arrange, you know, the evening before I come out, just so that they're quick for me to get a hold of. They're right here, done. The bulk is all in the other hatches. So that's just, like I say, that's just for my jig trailers for the day. And there is the Missile Bait Destroyer, which you can see is quite a substantial bait. So let me just show you quickly the smaller one, just so you can see the size comparison. So there's your baby destroyer, and there's your destroyer. So there is quite a big size difference. Here we go, the big one, because we want to catch big fish. And if you fished here before, other venues where you see those freshwater craws down that fish's mouth, I'll tell you those tentacles, some of those tentacles are like 200 mil long. So anyway, so all I do is I trim this down. I trim the body down, I don't trim the legs down. So I just make a measurement for the length of the hook to see exactly where I want that hook to come out. And I want the hook to come out in front of the flappers and obviously in front of those tentacles as well. So it's just quite simple, guys. You just make a mark there, and I just take a pair of scissors and I just cut that square straight across. Okay, so that's sorted and ready to go on. I've got some appendages, I've got the flappers, and I've got the juice. Okay, and then rigging it on is very simple. I'm just a little bit pedantic when it comes to colors. So for me, I like to, on the Superbug color or any laminate, I prefer the lighter laminate or the lighter color of the bait to be on the bottom and the darker side to be on top. It just seems to be more natural to me, you know, like fish, the underside of the belly is like pale white and all the colors, you know, the darkness is on the top. So that's just how I do it. So it's very simple, hook point straight through and out, keeping it perfectly straight, and then I push that destroyer all the way up and lock it in place. Right, that is now sorted and ready to go. I've just got to correct my weed guard, flare that back out, and I'm ready to go. Just pull that bobber stopper down, and there's my rig. That's my jig, trimmed down, got my rattle on it, got my trailer on it, my destroyer, ready to go. Technique wise, long cast, let it go down next to the rocks, let it go if there's submerged trees that you can see. It's on the bottom, make contact. I do hop it, jump it, those sorts of things, and pop it. Some guys call it pop it like it's hot, drop it like it's hot, whatever the story is. Just give it some action, get that rattle working, you know, that triggers them to bite. But most of the time you just want to be maintaining that bottom contact. So try it out, guys. I'm sure it's going to work for you. I've caught some really, really good fish on it, and definitely a secret when you come out to venues like Hurutro or the areas that you guys might be fishing around the country or across the border in Zimbabwe and those places where you've got those freshwater craws. That jig presentation is definitely going to get you some big ones and going to get you some numbers as well.